Good afternoon, everybody. No, good afternoon, everybody. There you go. Awesome. Well, it is such a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to be here. I love the theme of resilience. That is amazing. I love that. And one of the things that I heard the Reverend speak about was just the resilience of us Houstonians here with Hurricane Harvey. And although Harvey came and we all felt its wrath, although Harvey may have washed away some homes and cars and belongings, one thing that Hurricane Harvey did not wash away was the spirit, was the love, was the grit and the resilience of us Houstonians. So I'm so grateful to be here. And like Gina said, I am the founder of Project PUSH. PUSH is an acronym: purpose-led, unstoppable, success-bound, and hope-filled. Qualities that each of you I can see carry within you. Yesterday, we had our third annual Women Who Push conference. It was absolutely amazing. It was full of women who were ready to push through. The theme was push through, very much like resilience. So many times we as women, we have these dreams and ideas and things that we want to do, but because of our own limiting and sabotaging mindsets, we talk ourselves out of those dreams, or we scale back and we minimize the dream and the vision that we have. So I was super excited with being around 200 amazing women just like yourselves, and together we push through some stuff so that we can get to the next phase of our destiny. Again, push through is resilience. It's all about conquering those limiting beliefs and moving to the next level of life. One of the things that I noticed at yesterday's conference was there was such a common denominator. Although we had a room full of amazing, successful women in their own rights, the one common thread that so many women talked about and shared was this theme of fear. Fear. Does anyone in here ever feel fear other than me? Okay, yes. And one of the things I want to talk to you about today is, again, they talked about fear of not getting it right, fear of not looking the part, fear of I'm not capable, I'm not able, fear of, oh my gosh, I don't look like this person, or my business isn't like this, fear of failure, and oftentimes fear of success. And so when I think about that, it reminds me that in order for us to truly walk into the fullness of our purpose and our destiny and our calling, we have to be fearless. In order for us to be resilient, we have to be fearless. But when I say fearless, I don't want to scare you off, because fear is a normal, natural emotion. We all are going to feel the emotion of fear. But when I say fearless, we can't allow fear to keep us stuck. We can't allow fear to determine our fate, to keep us from moving forward and pushing through. We can't allow fear to immobilize us and paralyze us from going forth and doing the things that we really want to do in life. And so when I think about this whole thing of fear, it reminds me of a story of this little goldfish. I don't know if you guys have heard this story before. It's all about how, unfortunately, sometimes with fear, we allow it to keep us from moving forward, and we miss out on certain opportunities in life. And so there was this story about this little goldfish, and there was a little girl about the age of some of the little girls here, and she had this goldfish, and it was time for her to clean the goldfish's bowl. It was just filthy, and so she said, okay, I'm gonna just clean his fish today, clean the bowl. So she ran water in the tub, and the tub was obviously a nice sized tub, much larger than the fish bowl. So she put the fish in the tub, and she said, I'll let him just sit there for a little bit, get some exercise. She's assuming he's going to be appreciative of being in this tub because he's been in this small bowl for so long, right? So she went away, and she came back, peeped in on the fish, thinking that he was going to be, doing figure eights, lapping it up, just really doing some jumps and dives, really enjoying this tub. When she peeked in there, to her dismay, she noticed that he was in the far corner of the tub, going in little bitty circles. Little bitty circles, the same way that he would have done in his fish bowl. And when I think of that little fish, sometimes I think of us. I think of me. I think of how oftentimes we scale back and we are afraid to swim beyond the little bitty fish bowl. We minimize our talents, we minimize our greatness, our brilliance, and we stay in the small fish bowl in life when we really have this large territory to conquer. But because of small thinking, limited beliefs, and fear, we stand back and we hold back. And so I wanted to share with you today a little story from my book. It's an excerpt from my book. I think that you guys will get a kick out of it, particularly the younger girls here. But before I go there, I want to say this. I do not condone fighting. I do not support fighting. I do not support violence or bullying. However, I do support speaking up for yourself, standing up for yourself, and letting your voice be heard. So with that, all right, okay. I need to get that clear first. All right. So this is how I went from a stage in life where I went from what I call fear to fierce. We got to find our fierce girls. All right. So I remember as though it was like it was yesterday, although it was a couple decades ago. I remember her, the way she looked, the dark eyeliner that she wore up under her eyes, the little small gap in between her teeth, her asymmetrical hairstyle that was really hot back in the 80s. I remember the way she looked at me and glanced at me up and down, the way she would roll her eyes. I remember every time I saw her in Philo Middle School, coming down the hallway, I would run to the other side and drop my head. Yes, I remember Miss Monica Booker like it was yesterday. Every time I saw her, she had me trembling at the knees. But on one particular day, I had enough of Miss Monica Booker. This was beyond crazy. I was finally over walking in fear every day, wondering if today would be the day that Monica Booker would decide to finally make good on her word and knock me out or pull my hair out. Even more frustrating, I was clueless why she hated me so much. And truth be told, she was probably just as clueless. On one particular night, I had decided to go to school with a new attitude. I had mapped it out all in my head. I knew the next day was do or die for me. As long as I was willing to cower down, drop my head, move to the other side of the hall, and disregard her obscene slurs to me, everything would be okay. But I wasn't willing to be her doormat any longer. I had enough of living in fear. No longer was I going to allow the fear of Miss Monica Booker to get the best of me. It was my 7th grade year, for Pete's sake. I had already dealt with her the prior school year, and I wasn't going to once again go through another year of terror. I would go to school the next day with my head held high and refuse to allow her to continue to disrespect me. But I also had to be clear on what that meant. Not backing down to her could possibly mean I would get knocked out, and I'd be coming home with a black eye. This would definitely be the biggest risk I had ever taken in my 13 years of living. However, I was willing to take the risk. I was willing to be vulnerable. I knew that although she was potentially going to light me up, I knew that I was willing to fight back with all that I had. I knew that if she did get the upper hand on me, I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I was going to look at fear in the face, and I was going to deal with it. So the next morning, there I was in the sunny school courtyard, minding my own little business, sitting on a bench, watching some of the kids play four corners. And as expected, she, along with her crew, approached me and stood so close to me, I could have probably felt her breath breathing on me had I not purposely ignored her. I didn't look at her. I didn't budge. I didn't pay her 1 ounce of attention. I continued to look at the other kids who were playing. By this time, the other children noticed that something looked as though it was about to go down, so they stopped playing and cast their undivided attention to me. I heard Miss Monica Booker clear her throat to get my attention, but I never looked up at her. Usually by this time, I would have acknowledged her by getting up and moving out of her way. However, I continued to look out into the courtyard as though I didn't notice her. By this time, a small crowd gathered around. This was a rare scene. I sat in total disregard to the one who I typically ran from. I knew that something was about to happen. I felt the tension. I sensed her rage, and the whispers and stares amongst everyone made matters even worse. With sweaty palms and butterflies taking over my belly, I said a quiet prayer to myself. Lord, I know I'm not supposed to be fighting. I also know I'm not supposed to be getting bullied either. So if I have to fight this girl today, please be on my side. Amen. Monica Booker finally gave the order and demanded that I move from her seat. I continued looking out into the courtyard, totally ignoring her, as though I didn't even see her. She repeated herself. This time, without ever giving any eye contact, I nonchalantly responded, "I'm not moving anywhere." She had never heard anything like this coming from me, so she asked me to repeat what I said. I looked at her right dead square in her eyes, and with a little more bass in my voice, I said, I'm not getting up. I'm not going anywhere. I was already here first." She was startled by my response. She was under a little pressure because of the crowd that had gathered around. She got even closer to me, and in an attempt to intimidate me, she yelled, "I said you better get up before I beat you." Yes, that's what I said. Then she proceeded to yell curse words at me. I don't know where the confidence came from, but I rose up. I got bold, and I told her, "The only thing you're going to do is sit right here, or you can bring it on, Missy." At that point, I stood up toe-to-toe with Miss Monica Booker. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I was prepared to fight for what was mine, which was my dignity, my respect, and the right to not walk around in fear any longer. I don't quite remember what she said at that point, but I do remember it was no longer me backing down. This time, after what seemed to be an eternity of a toe-to-toe standoff of who would back away first, she mumbled something, turned around, and she and her crew walked away. From that moment on, I didn't have any more problems with Miss Monica Booker. When I walked down the hall, I didn't have to drop my head and scurry to the other side. No way. No longer did my stomach get that sour feeling and drop to my feet because of her presence. No longer was I scared to use the restroom because of fear of being caught and cornered. Nor did I ever give up my seat for Miss Monica Booker again. The fear of Monica no longer controlled me. My entire sixth grade year and half of my seventh grade year had been torture. I could finally exhale. I was free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I was free at last. Things changed for me on the day that I decided to face my greatest fear. We allow the Monica Bookers of our world to keep us from walking into our best and creating the life of success that we want. Sometimes success just means looking at fear in the face and saying, "No, not today, not anymore." When I stood up to Miss Monica Booker, a whole new world of opportunity was open and created for me. I could finally breathe. I could laugh. I could enjoy a normal middle school experience. I could be free to play and live a life without constantly being on the lookout for you-know-who. I experienced a new level of confidence that I didn't think I had. I became a happier person. I made new friends, and I ditched an enormous amount of stress. In that moment, I went from fear to fierce. Can any one of you in here relate to that story by show of hands? Yeah? Raise your hand if you had a Monica Booker in your life. Ooh. Raise your hand if you were Monica Booker. I see. Well, I didn't, again, come here to advocate for fighting or bullying, but I did advocate for being resilient by standing up for yourself, for speaking up for yourself, and not allowing fear to control you or dictate you. I did come here to let you guys know that whatever the fear is, whatever the Monica Booker is in your story, it doesn't get the last word. In order for us to be resilient, in order for us to walk in our purpose, our passion, and our possibility, resilience is important, and facing our Monica Bookers head on is very important. With my time left with you today, I want to go over 7 lessons that I learned really quickly from this experience with Monica Booker. Do you guys have that on the slide? All right, lesson number 1. Y'all didn't know y'all was going to be in school on Sunday morning, did you? Lesson number 1, sometimes facing your fear means you have to do it scared. Is that what I have right there? No. That was lesson 3, yes. Number 1, bullies aren't always as big. There you go. Bullies aren't always as big and as bad as they appear. For a year and a half, Monica Booker had me trembling. She had me totally scared because I thought she was this big, bad monster. But when I finally faced her, I saw, you know what? I should have done this last year if this is all it's going to take. So again, I encourage you, whatever your bullies are, whatever the fear is in your life, whatever the thing that you're dodging and dipping from, oftentimes it's not as big as we really think it is. Lesson number 2. Until you decide to face your bullies or fears and declare no more, nothing will change. In fact, the problem and fear only grows. Once again, I dipped and I dodged her for 1.5 years. And with each day, with each week, it became bigger and bigger. She was more of a threat to me. And oftentimes the things that we fear in life, the things that we run away from, we continue to give it power. It has power over us. So maybe it's I'm running from this idea of maybe leaving corporate America and starting my own business. Maybe it's the fear of, you know what, there's this decision that I just need to make. Whatever that thing is that we're dipping and dodging, the more that we run from it, the bigger that it grows. Lesson number 3, sometimes facing your fear means you have to do what's scared. So many times, if you're like me, we're waiting for the right moment. I'm waiting for the fear to go away. I'm waiting before I get a little bit more confident. I'm waiting for the doubt to disappear. But sometimes in life, you gotta do what's scared. Nothing is gonna happen until you just jump in and do what's scared. Lesson number 3, where are we at? 3, 4, all right. Once change happens when you are willing to be vulnerable and take a risk. So many times we wanna stay in our comfort zones and we don't wanna be vulnerable and we don't want to take a risk. But change doesn't happen until we can strip down, be vulnerable, take a risk and say, you know what, I really don't know the outcome, but this thing, whatever it is that important to me that I'm willing to be vulnerable and I'm willing to take the risk. Lesson number 5, we have a choice to own our power or to give it away. There's a quote by Alice Walker that says, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. And for me on that day, those days of middle school running from Miss Monica Booker, I was giving up my power. I was giving up my power to her each time I dipped my head and ran to the other side of the hallway. I gave up my power every time she came to me and snapped my finger and I got up and got off that bench. I gave my power away. I gave my power away every time that she was able to say obscene slurs to me and just sort of spaz out on me for nothing, and I would just sit and walk away and drop my head and cry. I gave my power up to her. So again, we have a choice to own our power, to stand up, to speak up, or to give it away. Lesson 6, facing your fears produces confidence. I tell you what, the day I stood up to her, I was a whole new girl. The level of confidence that came to me just by facing her, it was enormous. And so in order for us, lots of times we were thinking, I want to be more confident. How can I become confident? Well, facing the thing that you're running from produces confidence. And the last lesson, lesson 7, surrendering to faith and not fear opens the door to freedom. Faith is just believing in that thing that maybe you don't see. Faith is believing in the thing that you really don't have proof or evidence. I had no reason to believe that I was going to beat Miss Monica Booker, all right? But that little prayer that I said and me just having faith, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm believing that this is the last day that she's going to torture me. I had to have that faith, and I had to believe that until I stood up for myself, until I was able to bounce back and be resilient, until I was able to speak up, that nothing was going to change. And so I don't know if any of this resonated with you guys today, but the one thing that I hope that you take away is that although we may have fear, we can't consume us. Although we may have fear, it cannot keep us from going through and doing the things in life that we want to do. So many times, particularly for you young girls, as you continue to get older, the worst thing you want to do is to be my age, looking back and saying, what I should have or could have done. Why didn't I do that? All because of fear. And even for us seasoned and mature ladies, it's never too late. It's never too late to go back and look at that Monica Booker or that fear or that thing that you dodged from. It's never too late to go back and to conquer that fear, because the world needs something that we have. For you girls, although you're young, guess what? You're chosen, you have purpose. The world needs something that you have. You are unique and you are special. You are the solution to someone's problem. And so many times we shrink back in our gifts, we shrink back in our brilliance because we're fearful. We're fearful that we don't look like the next person, the girl on Instagram, the person on Facebook. But we are unique, we are special, and we are resilient. And in order to get to all that we have for us, we have to understand that fear will not hold us back. Thank you.